blood moon total lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. This is a huge energy, you guys. It's a reap what you've sown type of experience. Energy of fate, of karma, of circumstances coming in from the outside to turn our lives upside down and on their head. Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I'm back with another super exciting extended 2-week forecast. This one is for May 15th all the way through to May 30th of 2022, beginning with the much anticipated blood moon total lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. This is a huge energy, you guys. Not only is this the culmination point of this eclipse cycle, this is the culmination of a bigger energy we've been experiencing for several weeks prior to this eclipse cycle, due to the fact that Saturn in Aquarius has been in a T-square with the karmic lunar nodes. The lunar nodes are the eclipse points. They represent this energy of fate, of karma, of circumstances coming in from the outside to turn our lives upside down and on their heads. This is also Saturn, which is a particularly karmic energy. It's a reap what you've sown type of experience. And so now we're coming into these karmic roadblocks. Now we're coming into these hesitations. Now we're coming into these choice points where we have to decide if we're going to adhere to the rigid standards we've been kind of placing around ourselves, if we're going to live up to our potential, if we're going to continue to carry the weight of the responsibilities that we've built for ourselves for quite some time, or maybe kind of looking at whether or not we need to let go of certain responsibilities, certain weights, certain structures, certain confines that are preventing us from really embracing a brand new fated path that's way more aligned with our purpose and with our destiny. And so this is a huge, powerful moment in time. And with Saturn, especially, and with this being a south node lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, this is going to be bringing up energy that's been playing out for quite some time, not just over the past few weeks, but really over the past few months, or maybe even throughout different cycles in our lifetime or in previous lifetimes. This is where something is coming full circle, something is coming to completion. We're recognizing karmic patterns that are playing themselves out over and over and over again, and this is a reap what you've sown type of energy, which means a lot of the problems you'll be facing, a lot of the hurdles that'll come up, a lot of the challenges that will be causing hesitation, that'll be causing you to have to stop or slow down or kind of cut ties, are going to be caused by something that you've created for yourself or built for yourself sometime in this lifetime, or again, it could even be a previous lifetime experience. But for most of us, it's going to be something where it's like, wow, you know, when I went and I did this, I didn't realize it was going to create this sort of hurdle. I didn't realize it was going to create this cage that I've built for myself. I didn't realize the weight of the responsibility would prevent me from embracing what I actually need to be doing in this lifetime. And now what do I do? Now how do I work on letting go of what I no longer need in order to jump into my true path, to embrace my higher calling? This could also be the culmination of something you've been working on, building toward, really refining and defining, not just in this lifetime, but over the course of many, many lifetimes for some of you who are being hit even more intensely by this eclipse, meaning the fixed signs. And this is where it's kind of coming full circle. It's like, wow, I see what I've created here. I see the benefits of all of the work I've been putting in. I see, you know, kind of where this has all come to. But now, you know, maybe I'm a little done with this. Maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to take what's good from what I've actually put into motion and leave behind the rest and start working on an exit strategy. And Saturn is all about strategy. It's not about just leaping forward head first all crazy, although with Jupiter newly transiting the sign of Aries, you might be wanting to do that. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you check out my video on the Jupiter transit through Aries, floating around somewhere up here, so you can get a full overview of that energy, which is playing out at the same time as this eclipse. And so, yeah, it's an interesting energy. I think people are going to be facing a lot of challenges, but it's also a mixed bag, meaning that there are positive alignments with this eclipse as well. We have the Neptune conjunction to Mars, which is coming super exact right after the eclipse, that is going to be in trine with the blood moon. We have the Pluto transit through Capricorn in a nice sextile with the blood moon and in trine with the sun, which is in opposition to the moon, as it always is during a full moon or during a lunar eclipse. And so there's good mixed in with the challenge. But before we get into that, I just want to mention, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Heather Eland. I'm a professional astrologer and teacher of astrology, and I specialize in teaching my students who are struggling to put all of the pieces together to learn to give meaningful, accurate astrology readings with confidence. The best way I do this is through my Cosmic Academy of Astrology. If you haven't already done so, make sure you check that out and get on the wait list for the next go through. If you're on the wait list, you're going to get excessively higher discounts. You're going to get early bird enrollment, and you're going to be getting a lot of sneak previews and exclusive tutorials and tips for learning astrology that nobody else will be getting. Also, for these videos, the way that I structure these videos is I always start with a 5 to 10 minute general overview of the energy for the next 2 weeks ahead. Try not to skip this because it's going to provide an important context for what we'll be getting into more specifically in my forecast for all 12 signs. Speaking of which, when I do get into the forecast for all 12 signs, make sure you listen to your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign to get a more holistic overview of the energy for the next 2 weeks ahead. Your rising sign will be the most predominant energy, your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy will be a little bit more internalized and subjective. Finally, at the end of each video, I do a sneak preview of the forecast for the next 2 weeks, which will be for the new moon in the sign of Gemini. Make sure you stick around until the end if you're interested in that, and also hit that subscribe button. I do a new video, tutorial, forecast most Saturdays at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and so you don't want to miss that. All right, so now that we kind of covered all of that, let's get into a little bit more detail about this full moon eclipse. This is kind of a big one. So this is happening at 25 degrees in the sign of Scorpio. And so if you're somebody who has a lot of planetary energy near the end degrees, anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees in any of the fixed signs, the fixed signs being, of course, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, then you're going to be in for a major shift in energy. This is a major upheaval, and this is going to be potentially a major period of crisis and challenge. All the while, you're going to be supported by this energy of Neptune and Mars. You're going to be supported by this energy of Pluto. But like I said before, it's a mixed bag. And the challenges for those fixed sign energies might feel like they're outweighing the positivity, but the positivity is still there. And so we've had Pluto transiting the sign of Capricorn for many years now. It's actually going to be finally shifting out of Capricorn and into Aquarius in March of 2023. So it's making its last transformative aspects and energies throughout the year this year, and this is an activation of that. It's kind of a wrapping up of an ongoing saga of kind of death and rebirth, of pulling out the truth, of figuring out what we truly deeply at our core need, want, and desire in the Capricorn areas of our lives, which we'll get into more specifically when we get into the forecast of all 12 signs. And this energy of the blood moon is going to bring that to a culmination as well. It's going to show us something or shed light on something that has been misaligned or that has been hidden, some truth that we haven't necessarily looked at yet or been exposed to yet that we need in order to finish out that process. Also, that Mars-Neptune conjunction, which I do not love. I say this every time we have Mars and Neptune together, but it tends to bring about strange events on a global scale and confusing and almost like it's like a shock and confusion and intense energy where we feel really intense or we feel really anxious or we feel really fired up about something due to a miscommunication, or not even a miscommunication, but a misconception or an altered perception of the reality of the situation, where we're not seeing it clearly and we're not understanding it fully, and it can cause us to take action that's misaligned or that's kind of off kilter and cause a lot of problems for ourselves. That is part of this energy over the next 2 weeks. That's going to happen on May 18th. However, we're lucky that the blood moon is actually in trine with this energy, so it's going to help us to get a sense of clarity, and it's going to bring about something kind of faded importance around that conjunction. And so there's good to that as well. Also, this is a very, very intuitive eclipse. This is not a time, especially with Mercury in retrograde, to try to logic things out as they're unfolding around you. It's a time to feel things out. It's a time to tap into your intuition. It's a time to sense things as opposed to rationalize things. Doing that will actually make it a lot easier for you to navigate the energy, especially with that Saturn, because we're going to be challenged by looking at what's practical, what's logical, what's real, what's reasonable to do within the confines of this cage that we've built for ourselves, as I mentioned before. Whereas the other aspects of this energy are causing us to look at, hey, how can I work on letting go of that cage or breaking free from those past karmic circumstances so I can create this new reality and take the gifts of what I've learned from this and shoot them into a future me, a future situation, right? So that's a big part of what's going on here. Throughout the next couple of weeks, we'll also have on May 23rd, Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Gemini. Check out my video on the Mercury retrograde in Gemini and Taurus for more info and details on that if you haven't already done so, because this is going to be a point of important clarity where you're going to get some spark of insight, some spark of knowledge, and it's going to be a very passionate, really exciting energy because we have Jupiter with Mars in the mix too. In the sign of Aries. And so that's going to be an important point for those of you who are feeling a little bit more on edge or confused around the time of this eclipse and as we're closing out this eclipse cycle. And then finally, Mars conjunct Jupiter in Aries, that's happening on May 29th. Again, Jupiter and Aries forecast, you can get more info into that, but that's going to be kind of an enthusiastic burst of us wanting to jump, like lunge forward into something, probably prematurely, because again, that Mercury retrograde energy, and it's going to be in Taurus, and it's going to be activating this eclipse point again, which I talked about in the Mercury retrograde forecast. So there's a lot going on here, but today we're going to be focusing really heavily on the eclipse energy because this is the most life-changing, transformative energy that we're going to be experiencing in the next 2 weeks, and one of the most transformative, powerful energies we'll be experiencing throughout this entire year in 2022. Speaking of which, I do have my Karmic Power of Eclipses webinar still available for free for you guys to help you navigate this energy, the eclipse energies in your birth chart, your pre and postnatal eclipse, all of it. You can find that down in the description below. Again, free gift for you to help you navigate this eclipse season and navigate all of the future eclipse seasons a lot more in detail than what I can provide for you in these shorter forecasts. It's a 2-hour webinar. And so again, find that down in the description below. It won't last forever. I'll probably bring it out for the eclipse seasons, but yeah, it's not going to be a forever gift because it's normally a paid webinar. It's a really good webinar, you guys. So anyway, that's what I have for you. So let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning, of course, with Aries and Aries rising. All right, and so for Aries and for Aries rising, this is going to bring a big fated karmic transformation involving your finances. This could be the culmination point of something you've been building toward or working on, or this could be a karmic unraveling. It could be where it's a reap what you've sown energy, where things start to become a little bit more challenging in that area due to choices that you've made in the past. It's a culmination, right? It's a culmination of all of the events that have transpired up until this point in the area of finance, where you get to see not only the benefits and the rewards of the hard work you've put in and what you've done right, but you also kind of have to look at what you haven't done right. And so that's going to be a big part of this as well. Just know that whatever comes up prior to the eclipse coming to its full culmination, and even for a few days after, you're not seeing the whole picture. There's something being eclipsed here. So if you make a big financial decision, a big purchase, a change in your finances due to maybe a new work circumstance, a new job, or a new career opportunity, there's something here that you're not quite seeing. It could also be that your friends, your group associations, the people you surround yourself with by choice are kind of giving you a lot of doubt around the choices that you're making, and that could be the thing that you need to kind of shed and break free from in order to reach your full potential when it comes to your possessions, your money mindset, and your ability to really create and cultivate a lot of resources for yourself. And so This is a big part of the energy. It could also be that something's coming up for you, especially around an investment or an insurance payout or policy, or your partner's resources or other people's money in some way. This could also, for some people, be something associated with death, or potentially even something like a will or an inheritance that could come through right now. Or maybe you're thinking about creating something like that or altering your own will. That could be part of it too. This could also be just a lot of fear and anxiety bubbling up right now due to your connections, your mental and psychological and even physiological connections that you're holding in your body to past experiences that were very traumatic, that were very difficult, that are kind of dictating the way that you're behaving and acting and dealing with the material realm, especially on the financial side of things now in this moment. So those are all things to consider, but this could also be a culmination of a transformation where you've been really figuring out what you need, want, and desire when it comes to your career, when it comes to your public reputation. And this could also be a lot of new developments coming up for you in things like the occult sciences, magic, spirituality, or spiritual practices. And you could have new developments in this area, but it could be almost a little unnerving or a little bit challenging for you to get there. And that could be part of this energy too. I would say that for the most of you, though, this is going to be more tangible than anything else, involving career, involving finances, and also, again, involving naysayers and maybe needing to let go of those people or change the structure of your social situation so that way you're not so plagued by other people's opinions, other people's doubts, that even if you think that you're independent from them, they're creeping into your subconscious in some way, and that might be what's exposed for you at the time of this eclipse. All right, and for Taurus rising, oh my goodness, Taurus. If you are a Taurus sun, moon, and rising, especially anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees, holy crap, this is where your life is about to change. And it's not going to be the easiest situation. It's almost as if you have to really break free from something or work through something, especially when it comes to your career, your public status, the legacy you leave behind after work, or the way that you adhere to standards, rules, regulations, and boundaries that are passed down to you from higher up, from somebody in a position of power and authority. And in order to kind of embrace who you're meant to be, which is really what this energy is all about for you right now, you're going to have to look at that. This is also an energy where you're going to be working really hard on aligning yourself and your relationships with your integrity. You've gone through a process over the past several years of honing in on what you truly desire and what you truly believe when it comes to your philosophical value systems, your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, any ideologies that really frame your reality through the way that you kind of put context onto your life. And this is a time where you need to start practicing what you preach, and that becomes very apparent. So it's about shedding ties with people and contracts and relationships in general that are not aligned with your integrity. And those relationships, yes, it'll be challenging to let them go to a certain extent, but they'll also sort of slip away in the way that they need to. And new friendships that are more aligned, that feel familiar even, because these could be past life connections that are meant to come back around at this point in time in this lifetime to help you get further on your path, to help you align with your true nature a lot more so. Those can be coming in right now while these other relationships are falling away, and so it makes it kind of an easier transition. But again, the challenge here is aligning who you are, aligning your relationships, and even aligning your career path with your integrity. And there could be career challenges that come up that cause disruption personally and interpersonally at this time. Just know that around the time of the eclipse, there's something being eclipsed here. So it's not time to take decisive action. If you do, it's not going to turn out exactly the way you think it will. However, as we move through the next couple of weeks, things will become much more clear. You'll start to see what you didn't see prior to this time period, and you'll know a lot better what you need to do, especially if you're following, like I mentioned at the start of this video, your intuition, your gut instincts, your feelings, as opposed to relying too much on your rational mind during this Mercury retrograde eclipse season. All right, and for Gemini rising, So for Gemini, this is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of work, health, and daily routines. This is where things might get a little busy for you. And there could be some challenges to your day-to-day work life, your relationship with your coworkers that kind of weigh on you in terms of just this sort of misalignment with what you believe to be right, what you believe to be true. There could be a challenge to your integrity with your work or in the workplace that could cause a lot of challenge and could cause you to really want to change something. It could be that your current circumstances at your job have reached a point of culmination and you're like, wow, you know, it's time to take some sort of action. It's time for me to move on. And this could be the signal for you to do so. Maybe not right this second, although you might feel like you want to do that. But there's kind of a confusion in your 10th house right now with that Mars-Neptune conjunction where this is going to bring clarity to it, but as soon as it passes, you know, it's still kind of nebulous. And so you want to kind of take that into account right now before you kind of just lunge into something without having the whole picture, especially during the eclipses. Around the exact time of the eclipse, which happens on the 15th of May, there's always some information that's being eclipsed. Even though there's something that's being brought out into the open that you're seeing more clearly, part of the information, part of what the situation is remaining hidden, and it starts to unravel and unfold. And you'll especially start to see it at the start of June when Mercury actually activates the eclipse points. You'll have a lot more clarity then, especially on that more rational level, which you don't have right now. So my main point being, feel into it. Pay attention to the divine guidance, pay attention to the signs, the synchronicities, pay attention to where you're feeling pressure and where you're feeling challenged and where you know that you need to change something because you've reached your breaking point, either in your career or with a health situation. That could be part of it too. And pay attention to what's coming up for you and guiding you in a new path, especially if it's a physical healing that you're going through. There could be a psychological component that you're not addressing, and that becomes very apparent and it becomes exposed during this time. Again, very important to pay attention to these things. Start kind of moving in those directions, but just know that you're not seeing the whole picture and that you're not going to be able to logic this one out. For Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancer, the full moon eclipse is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of joy, hobbies, interests, passions, things that you do because you love to do them, the things that you create because you love to create them. And that also includes children. Both the act of creating them and the children themselves. And so you could have a lot of new developments coming up in this area of life. There could be you know, a surprise baby that comes in for some of you. So if that's something that you're not kind of planning for, be a little extra cautious. But there could be, if that is the case and there's a pregnancy or, you know, a child on the way, there could be some sort of fear around finances that could be kind of plaguing you and preventing you from fully experiencing the joy around, you know, this new development in your life. Just know that this is something that you'll be able to work on and work through. If there's a lot of debt that you have that's holding you back from, you know, starting a family, or that's holding you back from creating what you want to create, starting your own business, this is the house of entrepreneurs, things that you create out of passion. Then, you know, just know that this is something that you're going to be able to understand a lot better over these next couple of weeks. And you're going to be able to start to work on getting yourself out of the cage that you've built for yourself financially, if that is the case. It could also just be a lot of fear. I mean, Saturn in the 8th house just brings up all sorts of crazy fears. It could be fears around death. It could be fears around, you know, reliving past traumatic experiences that you have to work through in order to fully embrace the things that you're passionate about, the things that bring you joy. And that could be part of this as well. This is great energy though, where there could be new developments in relationships. There could be new romantic encounters. There could be a revitalization of the passion in current relationships. And there could be surprise opportunities for you to maybe, you know, travel to a foreign country that come up just very quickly. Just know you don't have the full picture yet. There's going to be circumstances that you're not going to be able to logic out, and that things might change and shift as new developments unfold. But for you in particular, this could be quite nice. You could feel like you have a real fire lit under you to go out there and explore and to embrace new experiences in ways that you never thought possible previously. So yeah, I love this for Cancer. For Leo and for Leo rising. Oh my goodness, Leo. So another fixed sign here. Especially if you're a Leo, sun, moon, or rising, anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees, you're going to be feeling the more challenging components of this eclipse, and it could feel like your whole life is just being broken down, torn away, flipped upside down. You're being guided on a new path, and it feels very scary and very challenging to get there. It could be that there's something that you need to let go of, or that has reached a culmination point when it comes to your home, your family, your place of living, or your relationships with your family members, that you realize that you've enabled people or you've taken on too much responsibility in the home, and it's preventing you from actually embracing your path, your new destiny when it comes to your career, when it comes to what you put out there into the world, when it comes to the impact that you make or the legacy that you leave behind, even after your working years. There's something going on here that's bogging you down from your past. It's a repeating cycle over and over again, especially involving family relationships or contracts or agreements involving family, or maybe even like property or something along those lines, where it's like, wow, I created this situation. I would say for some of you, kind of just looking at this is again a very specific subset of these Leo people that I'm speaking to, all of you here on YouTube land. But for some of you, I would even say that it could be that you realize you need to relocate or move in order to embrace this new path with your career. But there's a contract that you're being held to, either a social contract or a verbal contract or an actual written contract, like a lease agreement or something like that, that is holding you back, that seems airtight, and you're like, why did I sign this? Why did I do this? Now I can't go where I need to go. You'll figure it out. It's going to be more challenging. You're going to have to take responsibility for a lot of this in ways that you might not want to, but it is possible. This is also a time where money can come through for property or for real estate, or through family members, or through inheritance in some way, and that could help you to further your goals. Just know that whatever's coming up for you right now, it's not fully formed, and you're not going to be able to understand it clearly, especially during the Mercury retrograde. But with the eclipses, there's always some information, some situation, some circumstance that's being eclipsed. Your best bet is to feel it out rather than think it out. Use your gut instincts, your intuition, instead of your rational mind, because your psychic abilities will be more online than your brain will be. But yeah, you're probably going through a lot of changes, Leo. So it's an exciting time, but it's going to feel strenuous. So just be prepared. All right. So for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgos, this energy is in your third house, which is the house of communication. It's the house of community. It's the house of short distance travel, vehicles, neighbors, your neighborhood, your siblings, extended family members, learning new skills. So many things happen here in the third house. People think it's kind of a boring house, but it's not. It impacts like all things that you do in your day-to-day life. And so all of these things that you do in your day-to-day life are going to be subject to massive change and transformation. This is the culmination of something that you've been building toward or working toward, maybe on an educational level, like an educational goal. This could be you needing to take or embrace skill sets that you learned in the past and channel them into a new path, into a new educational pursuit, into maybe a teaching endeavor or writing or blogging or podcasting or something along those lines. It's about taking your knowledge and your skills and turning it into something greater, or taking it to the next level, to a higher plane with this axis of the third and the ninth house. But there's something you have to let go of first. There's something going on in your sixth house, either like a health issue or complications at work, or just feeling really bogged down by your day-to-day life, your mundane, routine daily existence, and you feel like all of this responsibility that you're holding on a day-to-day level is preventing you from really going there. There's some energy you can lean on, especially when it comes to your relationships. And so this is a really great time where something could be exposed that's been hidden in your one-on-one partnerships. And this is also where you could do something in partnership with somebody else that could alleviate some of that stress, that strain, that burden on a day-to-day level. And so that's something to consider and to think about. This is also where you're channeling your passions into some sort of new knowledge base or new educational pursuit. This could also be you having unexpected fated opportunities for travel, especially travel in partnership, or maybe a travel experience comes up where you're in the midst of travel and you meet someone new and it feels really exciting and you feel really passionate about it. Just know that there's some nebulous energy there and you're not experiencing it as clearly as you normally would be. And especially with the eclipses, there's something about all of these situations I just mentioned that you don't have all of the information about. Something's being eclipsed here. So let it play out, feel it out instead of think it out, and you'll be golden. All right, for Libra and for Libra rising. So for Libras, this full moon is happening in your second house, which is the house of money. There's something here that's coming to a karmic completion, a culmination point when it comes to your past experiences with your finances and your financial situation. It could be that you felt like your finances were preventing you from really embracing what you love and what you really desire and what you want to do because you're passionate about it. So this energy of really wanting to create something born out of your passions, born out of your interests, and maybe feeling like you can't do so because you have these financial obligations and you need to make money for this or do that or buy this or whatever. This is kind of coming to an end, and you're going to be able to see how you can practically work with this energy. And for Libras, the Saturn side of things is actually not so bad. This is creating more stability for you. It's kind of like taking your passions and turning them into something very, again, practical, right? Turning them into something real. This is where a lot of Libras are going to take something that's a hobby and turn it into a business. It could also be that you feel like your obligations to your children are preventing you from actually fully embracing the enjoyment of your material world and material life. And so it could be like, oh, I have to do this for my kids, so I can't buy this for myself. That's kind of coming to a culmination point where you're realizing you need to kind of break free from that or change something. Also, there could be new opportunities that come up for you involving your work, your health, and your daily routines that help support you more financially. If that is the case, it's, a good energy, but you're not seeing everything clearly. There's some nebulous circumstances around this, and so just kind of know that, and know that the whole picture isn't going to be clear until after we're out of eclipse season, really, when it comes to how this will play out and how this will manifest. So make sure that you're feeling it out instead of thinking it out, following the divine guidance, following the signs, the synchronicities, the fated encounters, the messages you're receiving more internally than externally, that type of thing. All right. And for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, Scorpios are another sign where, oh my goodness, this energy is impacting you very strongly. Your whole life is subject to change right now, especially if you are a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees. You're feeling the more challenging side of this transit and this energy. This is where there's something going on involving your home, your family, your property, where you're feeling stuck. You're feeling bogged down. You're feeling like, wow, I've created all this weight of responsibility. I want to move on and embrace this new path. I want to let go of all of these things that are no longer serving me personally, this identity that I was holding on to that's no longer mine. I want to focus more on developing better connections and relationships, but I have all this stuff going on behind the scenes at home that's preventing me from really branching out. There could also be like an actual circumstance that comes up involving your family or a family member that causes you to have to take on an additional burden, an additional weight, like maybe caring for a family member, and that prevents you from focusing on your needs and the needs of your partner or the direction that you really need to be moving into. And it's something that you've created for yourself. It's kind of like a situation where it's like a reap what you've sown energy. Like in the past, I did this, and therefore now that's happening, and I have to deal with it. So that's kind of the bigger energy that's going on there. I do really like this energy in supporting your joy and your ability to jump into something new that you love, that you want to create, that's in alignment with your passions. This is something that's also being exposed at the same time as these challenges. And so that's a big part of it. Also, this is a really great time where communication in partnership with other people is being enhanced in a lot of ways. And you're really finding out what you truly need, want, and desire, not just in relationship, but when it comes to who you are and the way that you want to show up in the world. And this could also be a big time of like physical healing. There's a lot going on here for Scorpios, obviously. But yeah, really, I think overall it's a mixed bag of energy. There's a lot of good, a lot of fun coming up for you in these next couple of weeks, but also a lot of nebulous energy and challenge, especially around your home, your property, your career path, your relationships, your real estate, that you're going to have to feel out rather than think out. Follow your gut, your intuition rather than your rational mind, because there's something here that's not being seen, that's being eclipsed. And also obviously we're in a Mercury retrograde. All right, and then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So for Sagittarius, this energy is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of endings. It's the house of things coming to a culmination or a conclusion, really, especially with this South Node eclipse, with the full moon. You're going to be feeling a little bit more internal rather than external at this time, meaning you've been busy out in the world working, and something's going to pull you kind of away from that. It's going to pull you more behind the scenes. You're going to want to spend some time in solitude and seclusion, especially the weekend of the 15th. This is a really great time to just do some inner work, do some spiritual exploration, rest. If you don't, there could be an extra strain placed on your body that could kind of throw you off course or throw you off kilter. And that could already be the case. It could be like the reap what you've sown energy we've been talking about throughout this video, where you did too much and now you're forced to take a break. You're forced to rest. You're forced to pull out of the world in order to recuperate and to kind of get your bearings again. There's also a major karmic cycle that's coming to a conclusion for Sagittarius right now. So you're letting go of a lot of your old self, your old path, your old life. You went through a major change over the past couple of years when it comes to who you are and just everything in your life. And now's a time where you're really working on finally cutting ties with all those last loose ends and unraveling all those old karmic cycles. This is also where a new opportunity could come to you, or for you, I guess, financially, or you might want to jump in and embrace something or start something new involving your home, your family, your property. And that's great. It's just that there's something that you're not seeing. There's a nebulous energy there. So just make sure that you're feeling it out rather than thinking it out, especially in that 12th house. Pay attention to your dreams, thoughts, imaginations, daydreams, things that pop into your consciousness. And, allow that to be your guide versus trying to overthink and over-rationalize things, because there's something that's being eclipsed. You're not seeing it just yet. For Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, this full moon is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, group associations, social networks, and people that you surround yourself with by choice. This could be a relatively social time for you, Capricorn. This is also where something could be coming to a culmination when it comes to an important friendship, group connection, network that you're a part of, where it's kind of like, this is a little bit burdensome. How did I get myself into this situation? It seems like these patterns with my friendships are repeating themselves over and over and over again. The eclipse is shedding light on this, and so it's time to kind of work on your exit strategy when it comes to friendships that are toxic or that are just kind of past their expiration date. There could also be new friendships coming in right now that feel really familiar, that feel really faded, that feel sort of karmic in that way, where you feel like you almost have to embrace these connections. However, there's going to be complications that are unforeseen, and you might already sense that with these people. So just know that it's part of something that you need to do, and that there's good that will come out of it, especially maybe you'll learn something or have some opportunities kind of on that plane. But yeah, there's something else going on here as well in terms of just like a karmic implication, where if it's not already the reap what you've sown energy that's bubbling up for you, it will be as a result of connecting with these new people. I will say though that any new connections that come in right now, especially friendships, will help you to figure out who you truly are and embrace just to really connect and align with your authenticity and with your truth, and to really align with what you truly need, want, and desire in your life. That's that Pluto activation in your first house on your ascendant with your sun or moon. And so you've been going through a deep karmic transformation for many years now, and this is highlighting that, and it's helping you align your connections, your social connections, with who you actually truly are and what you desire. All right, and for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius, this energy is happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career, public reputation, the impact you make out in the world, the legacy you leave behind even after your working years, your relationships with people in positions of power and authority. All of these themes are coming up right now, are coming to a culmination point, are up for review. It could be that you're moving on from an old path when it comes to your career, when it comes to your work. It could be that you're wanting to embrace a new path, but you have all of this personal responsibility or this physical hardship that you feel that's preventing you from really embracing your unique talents and gifts that you have gathered and acquired, not just through this lifetime, not just what you've worked for now, but what you've worked for several cycles, several lifetimes, that, you know, now it's time for you to actually embrace those talents and use them for something. And it's kind of like, I can't really do that because, you know, I have A, B, and C responsibilities that I've taken on, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm expected to be here, or I'm expected to be this way. This is a time where you're going to start working on shedding your old skin and letting go of those expectations that other people have for you and caring about those expectations so much, and letting go of responsibilities on a personal level that are preventing you from moving into the career path that you need to move into. It could also be the culmination point of something that you're getting recognized for in your career, and that's wonderful and great, but it kind of makes you realize, like, hey, this is great, I reached this point of completion, I'm celebrating it, but I realize that there's nowhere else to go. I've kind of reached that ceiling. So you might want to change something. Also, it could be that your career and your work is preventing you from having the home and family life that you want and that you really desire, and there's something you want to change there. And so this is kind of shedding light on that. It's like, oh wow, great, I achieved all of this, but there's also this that I want. And so it's about creating a better home life balance. This could be a really great time for you in terms of something coming up for you, a change that you have to make that's going to be a challenge that you're going to have to work on and work toward, but it could create a new financial avenue for you, so kind of revenue generating. You're just not seeing it very clearly right now, so just know that you know, this is going to continue to develop. There's something being eclipsed right now. Make sure you're feeling into it instead of thinking into it, and as we get into the start of June, it'll become much more clear rationally. You'll be able to logic it out a little bit more, but for right now, there's some nebulous energy around how what's going on in your career translates to finances for you. Pisces and Pisces rising. So finally for Pisces, this energy of the full moon is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of your beliefs. It's the house of your religious and philosophical and spiritual ideologies that frame your perception of reality. And this is also the house of travel, experiences, higher knowledge, higher wisdom. There's something here that you're reaching a culmination point with. It could be that you've decided that you've reached a culmination, or you're finally reaching a culmination when it comes to your higher educational pursuits, and you're like, all right, I'm done with this. I need to kind of move on to translating this into a practical skill set and doing something usable. There could be something that comes to a culmination involving teaching or travel or connections with people in foreign cultures. It could also be that some sort of mindset blockage or some sort of really rigid, dogmatic belief that you've been holding on to is finally exposed, and you're like, wow, I don't really need that anymore. That's not useful to perceive life in this way, in this sort of negative, pessimistic viewpoint, and so you could be letting go of that as well. This could also be a fated opportunity for travel with a friend or with a group of friends or something along those lines that could come up for you, and that could be quite nice. Just know that there's something going on behind the scenes, maybe working against you, or somebody working against you when it comes to those travel plans. I know that sounds odd, but it's almost like you have a friend that you're really excited to go on a trip with, and then there's somebody behind the scenes who's like gossiping about it or bad-mouthing you, or, you know, wanting to prevent you from doing that, maybe out of jealousy or something along those lines. That could be part of it too. But for the most part, for Pisces, this is a really great energy. This is a great social energy. This is a great energy for embracing or learning something new. This is a great energy for taking something from your past that you've learned and translating it into something practical, teaching it, writing about it. And this is a great energy for stimulating some sort of fated travel plans or encounter with somebody in a foreign country, encounter with a new teacher, and for, you know, just embracing really deep, really thoughtful, really loyal connections with friends who you truly trust. And maybe, you know, taking a little trip with someone like that. All right, and so that's what's going on for Pisces. And that's my forecast for all 12 signs. Coming up in 2 weeks, I'm going to have my new moon in Gemini forecast. This is going to bring us out of eclipse season. It's going to be kind of activating that Gemini energy again. Even though Mercury will be out of Gemini and into Taurus at this time, it's going to highlight some things that have been coming up during the period that Mercury was in the sign of Gemini, stationing and going retrograde and all of that, especially around the time of the Mercury station, which happened on May 10th, and the time of the Mercury cazimi, which happened on May 23rd. So it's revisiting those themes and those things that came into our consciousness and that we felt really passionate and motivated about, and actually starting to translate that into a new beginning. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and share this with your friends if you feel like they could benefit from the information that I share with you today. Also, again, make sure you check out my free webinar, The Karmic Power of Eclipses, down in the description below to help you navigate the remainder of this eclipse season and beyond. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.